Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. Today, we are talking about 5 players that could potentially be cut by their team that the Niners could then target in free agency. Before we get into the video, just want to say thank you again to all the new subscribers, all the support on the channel. It means a lot. That goes out to everyone. Appreciate y'all. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. First on this list is going to be Roby, cornerback from the Saints. Now, the reason why the Saints could potentially cut him is that they would actually save $9.6 million against the salary cap. They are currently, believe it or not, $72 million over. So they need to do a lot of different things. I think cutting Roby is one of the things that they will definitely do. Let's talk about Roby a little bit as a player. So he is 30 years old. He's been in the league for a number of years. Started out with the Denver Broncos, picked late in the first round. Someone who's actually had interceptions in every single season he's been in the league. Not only that, this is actually somewhat of an indicator that he's been very durable throughout his career. Here's the thing, he does play in a lot more man coverage in terms of throughout his career compared to zone, but I do think that D'Amico wants to incorporate maybe more man coverage, and having a veteran like Roby could really help some of the guys maybe transition a little bit to that. But here's a guy, look, he's been in the league for a number of years, so I don't think, he's played some zone before, so I don't think it would be a huge transition, but overall, when you think about what he did last season, only gave up 1 touchdown in coverage and has just been really solid throughout his career, could be a very nice veteran presence in the cornerback room. The second guy I want to talk about is going to be Anthony Brown, the cornerback from the Dallas Cowboys. He's 28 years old, and if he's cut by the Cowboys, he would actually save them $5 million on the cap. They are currently $22 million over the salary cap, so they got some work to do, but not as much as the Saints have to do. Now, if we look at his numbers a little bit, he's had 5 interceptions combined the last 2 years, which is pretty darn good. He had 3 last year. Now, here's the thing. He's played in that Dan Quinn defense, which we know is similar to what we run in San Francisco. Not the exact same, of course. All these guys, they come from like the kind of same coaching tree, but they all have their own spins on things. But it's good to know that he'd be probably familiar with a lot of the terminology and what have you. He's a guy who's also really, really durable. So he played in 97% of the snaps last year. And what I've looked at when I looked at some of his numbers is that he's actually improved his tackling as he's gotten a little bit more into the league, a little bit more into his career. So initially, he had a lot of missed tackles, and in this defense, you cannot miss tackles. It's so important to be able to limit those passes to like 3, 4, 5 yard gains, but he's done a lot better at that lately. One thing to be a little bit concerned about is he did give up 5 touchdown passes last year, which, at the end of the day, it's obviously maybe too many that you'd like, but he also played so many snaps. When you look at compared to Roby, I think Roby played maybe half of the snaps, whereas he played 97%. But he's a guy who's still, relatively young, 28 years old, has played in a similar defense. I could come at a reasonable price too. The third player on this list is going to be Mitch Morse, the center, the Buffalo Bills. Mitch is going to be 30 years old in April, and at that position, still relatively young, maybe another 4 or 5 good years left in him. Now, if the Bills cut him, or why would they cut him, is that they would actually save $8.5 million on the cap. They're currently $6 million over right now, so in order to maybe re-sign other free agents, and of course the draft class, they're going to have to make some moves, and this could be a move that they'd like to make, especially if they're eyeing maybe a couple of center prospects in the draft. Now, this would be a move the Niners would make if Alex Mack were to retire. Now, of course, there's rumors floating around that he might retire. I ultimately hope that he doesn't. I'd like personally to have Alex Mack back for 1 more year, then we draft his replacement in the middle rounds, and then hopefully have a seamless transition there. But should Alex Mack retire, we have a need at center immediately, and I think Mitch Morse would be a really good replacement. He's only missed 2 games in the last 3 years, but not only that, playing with the Bills and with the Chiefs in recent years, he has a ton of playoff experience, so that's something that to me can be a little bit underrated. We know that he's been there, played in the big games, and played at a high level, so that's someone that I would like to bring in should he get cut, and then should Alex Mack retire. Number 4 on this list is going to be tight end Cameron Brate from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cameron Brate is 31 years old. He would actually save the Bucs over $5 million on the cap. They're actually under $2.3 million, but similar to the Bills, in order for them to make some moves, who knows what's going to happen with Brady. It seems like Brady's going to retire, but you never know. But they have a lot of maybe different moves to make. Maybe they need to move up or, trade for a quarterback, and who knows how the money will work out there. So if they need to free up some space, then I think Cameron Brate could be an option. This one to me is maybe a little bit less likely because you have OJ Howard hitting free agency, and I think Gronkowski is probably going to retire as well. So their tight end room would be very empty. But should it happen and should they feel the need to make this space, I think he'd be a really solid option to bring in. He's a guy who's just the definition of consistency, and he's the perfect number 2 tight end, especially in this offense. He can block, he's pretty good at blocking, but just receiving the ball, he actually is pretty underrated because there's just so many weapons in Tampa Bay that you can easily get lost in the shuffle. But he's someone who's actually, believe it or not, a former teammate of Kyle Juszczyk. They both went to Harvard, so he's a smart guy at least. But here's the thing, very, very durable, hasn't really missed many games in his entire career, and as someone who, when defenses focus in on Kittle and Debo and Ayuk and all those guys, that he's someone who could maybe be really effective getting open and making some big plays for the Niners. So guys, last but certainly not least, we are going to have Justin Pugh, the left guard from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Pugh is going to be 32 at the start of the season. Why would the Cardinals cut him? Well, he would actually save them $10 million on the cap. They're currently about $1 million over the cap, but if we've heard anything about the Cardinals this offseason, it's pretty much Kyler Murray wants to make a lot of money. Don't blame him, of course, but he wants to make a lot of money, so they're going to have to maybe start making some moves to free up room for that crazy extension that we're going to see. Also, I think similar to the Mitch Morse situation, I think that we would look to bring in a guy like Justin Pugh if he's cut, if we lose a player. So with this player, it would be Laken Tomlinson. Should Laken Tomlinson, our left guard, move on to another team in free agency, I think Pugh would be a very, very serviceable replacement. He's a guy who hasn't really missed many games the last number of years, only missed 4 games in 3 seasons, so his availability is really solid, a durable guy. Here's the thing, too, which I really like about him, is that throughout the course of his career, he's actually played in a number of different positions. He's played left guard, right tackle. So I think any coach would say they like versatility, but especially someone like Kyle Shanahan, where there's always going to be maybe moving parts, and you never know what could happen if we draft a guy who does really well. But just having a guy like Pugh, who's a veteran, can play a bunch of different positions, would be really, really helpful, especially if we lose a guy like Laken Tomlinson to free agency, or just having someone like a veteran guy there should maybe Alex Mack retire or whatnot. So overall, that is my list of the 5 guys who I think could potentially be cut from their teams, who the Niners could then target in free agency. Now, what you'll notice is a lot of these guys are going to be very, middle of the road, not going to be seeking crazy big contracts, but guys who I do think would contribute and help right away. I don't think we're going to be in the market for any big signing free agents, so not really, even when it comes to free agent videos that will be coming up, I'm not really looking at the top guys, the top echelon of players in free agency, because I just don't think it's realistic to get any of those guys. But let me know what you think about this list of players who we could potentially target, and also put in comments about guys that you think who could get cut, who we then could target. So as always, I really appreciate all the support with the likes and the subscriptions and the comments. It means the world to me, seriously. It's so awesome to see. But yeah, there's going to be more upcoming videos coming out soon. It's been pretty hectic week, hence why there haven't been as many videos as normal. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there for the video, and I'm just going to say 2 things, guys. You know what they are. The butt counts, and I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.